Good afternoon and welcome to Biztech's Asian Midday Market Watch. Our guest today is David Kuo, founder of the Smart Investor in Singapore. David, it's a Friday that's very rainy here in Kuala Lumpur. What's it like in Singapore?
We've actually got sunshine, so don't be too jealous.
But we do need the rain. At the end of the day, changing weather patterns are such that the reservoirs need to be replenished. So I'm actually welcoming the rain today.
I thought you got flooding problems in the Klang Valley or something, haven't you?
I know that's in Kelantan actually.
Okay, Kelantan. Okay.
Yeah. So up now we had flooding last year. So this is really climate change in action. I was speaking to a guest in Sydney and how the climate has changed there and how there's flooding in Queensland. So very, very interesting in terms of climate change. But closer to home, we need to look at how markets are performing. We'll start first with cryptocurrency markets. Bitcoin is at 41,330.6. It's down 4.87%. Ethereum is at 2,720.12. It's down 6.25%. Now, looking across to regional stock markets, we start with the SGX. That's at 3,237.04. It's down 0.87%. Now, across the KLSE is at 1,599.2. It's down 1.19%. Shanghai is at 3,452.47. It's down 0.82%. The ASX All Ordinaries is at 7,376.3. It's down 0.95%. The Nikkei is down sharply. It's at 25,942. It's down 2.34%. Hang Seng is at 21,858. It's down 2.73%. And rounding up the numbers, we've got the Kospi, which is at 2,712.62, down 1.25%. Now, David, what's your view on why markets have performed so dismally this morning?
Okay, Brian. I mean, let's not forget that today is Friday and the markets will be closed tomorrow and Sunday. And right now we have a maniac in Moscow who is prepared to do just about anything. So I'm not entirely surprised, given what has just happened with the fighting around a nuclear power plant in Ukraine. I can't decide whether it was a mistake by Russia to fight so close to a nuclear power plant, or was it deliberate? But it is quite telling. I mean, if it was a mistake, then it just goes to show how incompetent the Russian army is. But if it was deliberate, then it just goes to show that Putin will stop at nothing and he's willing to sort of take these kind of risks to fight so close to a nuclear reactor. So given that context, I'm not surprised that some people have decided to leave the market on Friday because they have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow and the day after before the markets open again on Monday. So for those fearful people, they just take the money off the table and go, we'll come back again on Monday.
But David, I want to kind of share with the audience, I think the performance of the some of these stock markets over the last timelines. And if you look at the KLSE, that's down over a 3-year period, 5.13%. And the worst performer is actually the Hang Seng, which is down almost a quarter in the last 3 years, whereas the Kospi is up almost a quarter over the last 3 years. Now, it's interesting. What's your view on the regional stock market performance in the last couple of years?
Okay, so we can start with Hong Kong. I mean, Hong Kong has very specific problems. I mean, Hong Kong has decided to go down the route of China in terms of handling the pandemic, which is zero COVID. And many of us know that zero COVID doesn't actually work. But I'm not here to criticize either the Chinese government or the Hong Kong government. Every authority needs to decide how they want to handle the pandemic. Some have gone for very severe lockdowns at first, vaccinate their people, and then they can open up. America is opening up. Lots of Europe is opening up. UK, a country that I went to recently, that is opening up. Australia is opening up now. Singapore is gradually starting to open up. But Hong Kong has decided that it doesn't want to open up yet. And it's still imposing very restrictive measures, which is damaging the economy. And so it's not really surprising that the Hong Kong stock market is not done that well. But if you have a look at other places, Malaysia, where you are at the moment, Brian, I mean, that went into very severe lockdown for a period of time, but it is gradually opening. And for those economies that start to open up, then, of course, I think, we will start to see improvements. Japan still has problems right now. Korea seems to have handled the pandemic relatively well. So it's a case of those economies that have been able to look at the problem, sorted it out, and then start to open up and things start to improve. But then for all the hard work that was done to try and sort of get economies out of the pandemic, we suddenly have this war out in Eastern Europe between Russia and Ukraine. That has changed the dynamics of how the recovery is going to take place. And that is something that investors need to be very, very concerned about.
So, David, on that note, what's your view on Jay Powell and what he's going to do in the next Fed meeting, particularly what has been telegraphed in Congress in his testimony this week?
Well, I was shaking my head in disbelief, Brian, because up until the war in Eastern Europe, everybody was expecting the Federal Reserve to start increasing interest rates. There was even talk about a half-point rise in March to try and tamper down the inflationary pressures. I think that is all gone by the wayside now. I don't think the Federal Reserve will be able to be as aggressive in terms of increasing interest rates are concerned. To me, it doesn't make an awful lot of sense. First of all, the Federal Reserve needs to make sure that there is plenty of dollars around because people are scrambling for dollars. And so it has to make that readily available. But it cannot at the same time increase interest rates. It's a bit like turning on the air conditioning and opening the windows. You can't do both things at the same time. So I think Jay Powell has a problem, and listening to his testimony, he didn't seem that convincing in terms of, he said the right things. He has to control inflation, but he didn't seem that convincing to me, Brian.
Now, David, thank you very much for your insights and thanks for coming on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Now, we've been speaking to David Kuo, founder of the Smart Investor out of Singapore, on Biztech's Asian Midday Market Watch. I'm Brian Fernandez. Please check out this video and podcast on our website, www.biztech.asia, as well as our various social media platforms. Please like and subscribe to our various platforms. Thanks again for tuning in.